Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey there, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. We're looking at the third part of the three-part series in Psalm 89. This is Psalm 89, verses 38 through the end of the psalm. And as I said yesterday, we start off with the but, the great adversative. And it starts off by telling us that now that the Lord has done his work with David, setting him up, now he's having to do a judging work in David because they didn't keep the requirements that he proposed to them in verse 31 and following. They broke his commandments. They didn't follow his laws. They didn't keep his statutes, all of those things. So we have the but, you have done this. You have cast off, abhorred, been wroth with, avoided the covenant of, profaned his crown. We're not done. Notice verses 40 through 42. Let me read those for you. Thou hast broken down all his hedges. Thou hast brought his strongholds to ruin. All that pass by the way spoil him. He is a reproach to his neighbors. Thou hast set up the right hand of his adversaries. Thou hast made all his enemies to rejoice. So in the first two verses, we had four different things that the Lord was going to do. He cast off and abhorred. I count that as one. And then we see the other, he was wroth with, made void the covenant, profaned the crown. So those are the four in those two verses. Then we have six here in 40 through 42. So far, 10 things. Broken down all his hedges, brought his strongholds to ruin. All that pass by the way spoil him. So God is in judgment against his people. And when it says there that all that pass by the way spoil him, they're not even come to the land to do war with David. They just are coming by. Maybe they're going north or south, east or west, however they're going. And they come by and they think, yeah, this looks pretty good. I think I'll take some of that too. And because he has no hedge and he has no stronghold, and because the crown is cast down and the covenant made void and God's been wroth and cast off, well, anybody can just walk in because there's no guard. The Lord God is the guard, but he's not going to guard them any longer. As a matter of fact, if you look at verse 40, that idea of all his hedges, boy, you want to read something. I don't know if it's terrible or if it's wonderful, but it's in Isaiah chapter 5, the Song of the Vineyard. If you go over to Isaiah 5 and read verses 1 through 7, Isaiah actually gives us this very imagery here. Now, let me just turn over there real quick. We've got a couple minutes here. Let me look over in Isaiah chapter 5. Verse 1 says, Now I will sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill. And then he goes on to describe what he did. He fenced it. He gathered the stones, he planted it with the choicest vine, he built a tower in the midst of it, a winepress he put in it, he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. Now here comes the judgment. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem, men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard than I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, it brought forth wild grapes. Now here's verse 5. This is what's terrible. Now go to. I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up. You see here in Psalm 89, verse 40, the hedge is being removed. These are Isaiah's ideas, and I think perhaps they come across here in Psalm 8. I'm not saying that the psalmist here has copied Isaiah, but if he's Isaiah's time or later, maybe he has this in his mind, the Song of the Vineyard. And he's saying this is what's happened. God has done this. He's fulfilled Isaiah's prophecy. The hedges have been torn down. The strongholds are ruined. All that pass by spoil. He is a reproach to his neighbor. The right hand of his adversaries the Lord has set up, and he's made all his enemies to rejoice. So you see what happens when we turn away from the commandments of the Lord. These are the things that happen. Join me again tomorrow. We'll look at verses 43 through 45 and see that very important Selah at the end there. I'll see you then on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.